December 29th, the 5th day of Christmas. As we continue to celebrate the Christmas season, I'd like to give you just a couple of words and see what association you might have. Chancellor or Chief Minister of England and the King of England. Perhaps you thought of St. Thomas More and Henry VIII, and I wouldn't be surprised if you had thought about them. What happens? Thomas More, Henry VIII. Henry VIII, as we know, wants to have a divorce from his wife so that he can produce a male heir. Thomas More reminds him of his duty to God and to uphold the law of God, and that such a disunion would be sinful. Henry VIII does not want to be checked or countered, if you will. And so despite the very close friendship between them, he imprisons Thomas More and then ultimately beheads him. St. Thomas More famously stated that while he was loyal to the king, he was loyal to God above all things. He said, "I am the king's servant, but God's servant first." That is an instance of history repeating itself, because some 4 centuries prior to that, in the 12th century in England, the Chancellor, Thomas of Becket, close friends with the King of England, Henry II, advanced in rank and status and stature, and became the Archbishop of Canterbury, the most prestigious position in all of England, and would frequently remind the King, Henry II, despite their close friendship, or perhaps because of it, that he could not have the overreach of the government into church affairs that Henry II was so often seeking. And tensions came to such a point that one evening, in front of several of his knights, Henry II indicated that he would be very much beholden to be rid of Thomas Becket, because Thomas was preventing him from his aspirations and his schemes. These knights took it quite to heart, and so they entered into the Cathedral of Westminster and assassinated Thomas Becket, who, as he was dying, said the very words that a martyr before him had said, the first martyr of the church, whose feast we celebrated 3 days ago, December 26th, St. Stephen. And those words are these: "Into your hands, Lord, I commend my spirit." Thomas of Becket, faithful to the church, faithful to his position, faithful to God, loyal servant certainly to the king, but loyal first to God and in all things. We can learn many things about the spiritual life from St. Thomas Becket. Certainly fidelity to church teaching and to God, even at great risk to ourselves. But here's an instance from Thomas's youth. He was quite impetuous and daring in many ways, and that characteristic followed him throughout his life. But there was one instance when, as a hunter and as a hawker, so pretty much hunting with falcons and hawks, his very expensive falcon, chasing a duck, chased it into the river, and as the duck dove into the river, the hawk dove right in after it. Now, you and I know full well ducks can swim, hawks cannot. And so Thomas Becket, recognizing this, dove in after the hawk. It was very expensive to have a hawk, as you can imagine. So he dove in after it, and the very swift river started sweeping Thomas Becket away and toward a mill that was operating. And this mill wheel would have crushed Thomas Becket had he gotten caught in it. And it was only because the mill had stopped, accidentally, providentially likely, only because that mill had stopped, Thomas Becket's life was saved. But this impetuosity, this daring, and even this quickness to anger that he would have in his life indicate to us that we do not have to be without character flaws to become a saint. All we have to do, my dear friends of Christ, is to do precisely what Thomas of Becket did in his life to overcome these character flaws. And what is that? You and I, we have to make space for grace.